Welcome, friends. We'll get started in just a couple of minutes. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat and let us know how you're arriving today. Greetings. Welcome, everyone. I am so grateful to be here with you for an incredible program that we have lined up today. Food for the People, strategies for farmers to de-commodify food distribution. And so we'll take a few minutes here to share some libation, some gratitude and appreciation for the earth and the people that nourish and provide for us. And then we'll jump right into our wonderful guest presentations. And so the agenda for today will be after libation. We will have an opportunity to hear from our friends at Rocksteady Farm, led by Rica Bryan. Then we'll hear from Ariel White at Schenectady Greenmarket, and then Soulfire Farm before we move into conversation and question and answer. And so to begin, I ask everyone if you can find a comfortable seat. If able, place your feet flat on the ground, connect to Mother Earth, and we'll take a few deep breaths together to center our attention and our hearts in this space. We pour this water of libation in thanks for all the forces that conspire to bring us to this moment. We say Ibashe and pay homage to the dawn, to the sun that came up this morning, and to the moon that shines above us now. We say Ibashe and pay homage to the beautiful green earth upon which we stand, and to all of the plants and animals and fungi and bacteria that are part of our beyond human kinship circle. We say Ibashe and pay homage to water in all of its forms, to the snow and the rain, to the waterfalls and rivers, the aquifers and oceans, even our own tears. We say Ibashe and pay homage to the forces of fire and energy in our life, to the heat that warms our homes and the fire that cooks our food, to the passion and strength in our heart and the energy that moves through our farms in the form of photosynthesis and respiration. We say Ibashe, we thank you and homage to all of the manifestations of air, to the breath in our lungs, to the wind that removes stagnancy, to the weather patterns and climate. We say Ibashe and give thanks and praise to our ancestors, to all who came before us, blood and chosen, everyone who has inspired us in choosing a path of goodness. We say Ibashe and pay homage to our own Ori, the spark of divinity inside of each one of us that helps us to discern the right way to go. We say Ibashe, thanks and homage to the Mohican people, past, present, and future, who are stewards of the land that we are now on for time immemorial. And we say Ibashe, thanks and homage to all the people whose labor and blood is mixed in with this earth. The food growers, the builders, the healers, the organizers, and to all those named and unnamed who have contributed to our well-being, we say thanks. Ashe, ashe, ashe. And so with that, just a few words before I pass it off. It has been just such a beautiful, beautiful experience to be in community with all of you, and especially the wonderful farmers from Sweet Freedom and Rocksteady and Schenectady Greenmarket who have made the audacious choice to, in some or all cases, to de-commodify food in order to treat food as not a privilege, but a basic human right. And to think really, really hard about the way that farmers can be part of a radical vision for food justice and food sovereignty, which is not easy, right? Farmers are often the ones whose wallets are most tightly squeezed. There isn't really a margin. We're maybe not even getting paid ourselves. And so how can we be expected to think about distributing food to folks who need it without charging as much as we can, a premium or even above market? And there are some creative solutions to this. Of course, we're living under capitalism, so nothing is going to be perfect, but it's such a delight and honor to bring together folks who are practitioners and who are grappling with these questions and coming up with some ideas that hopefully inspire and challenge and provoke all of us into thinking about the ways that we can adapt and apply some of the strategies. So again, the flow will be, we'll hear from 3 different speakers. There will be, we will ask you to save your questions and comments for the Q&A period towards the end. Feel free to jot them down or jot them down in the chat so you don't forget. And with that, I am just delighted to pass the mic now to Rica Bryan from Rocksteady Farm.
Thank you so much, Leah, and thank you to Soulfire Farm for hosting this this gathering tonight. So I'm really grateful to be here and repping Rocksteady Farm. And yeah, would love to just dive in. So I will be talking about our approach, our ethos to our food access work, representing a team much larger than myself, which I'll get into in a minute. You can see some of our team members, some of our farm team on this first slide, a joyful depiction of our work here. Yeah, next slide, please. Okay, so who are we? We are Rocksteady Farm. We are a multiracial, queer, and trans-led cooperative vegetable farm and nonprofit rooted in social justice, food access, and farmer training. We are going on 10 years old. This season will be our 10th year. And we lease 8 acres of land in Millerton, New York, also the land of the Scotticoke First Nation. We are a small and mighty team that's changed throughout the years. This year we were 11 farmers with 5 acres in production. So we lease 8 acres and we're cultivating 5 acres. And we're also a farm that has, as you can see in kind of our purpose statement, we are a production farm and we're also a programming, training, and education space. And you'll see here on the slide on the bottom left, we are an LLC. That's how we are registered, as an LLC. And with that, we also have a fiscal sponsor, which really supports our nonprofit, kind of the nonprofit arm of our work. And with this particular fiscal sponsor, I wanted to uh, highlight this. We can actually fundraise up to 80% of our operating budget. And momentarily on the next slide, I'll describe why that's hugely impactful for our model and really creating opportunities for us to do this kind of de-commodifying work that we're really committed to. Is really at the core of our purpose as a farm. So next slide, please. Okay, so at Rocksteady, we really promote and value financial transparency. So I wanted to bring this forward to give as much information about our 2024 fiscal year and how we're able to do this work. So you can see on the top left, we have the fundraised revenue, which is 80% of our operating budget, close to $725,000. And all of that fundraised revenue goes to supporting our food access work, our nonprofit programs, and pretty much all of our shared overhead and organizational expenses. So for our overhead and our organizational expenses like rent, utilities, our insurance, consultants like a strategic planning support, professional development, etc. And I mentioned we are kind of some generous split between a farm and an educational space. So it also goes to support our nonprofit programmings like our tractor trainings, our apprenticeship program, our advocacy work, other educational workshops and events. And then it really also goes to supporting our food access work, which is what I'll talk predominantly about tonight, which, we grow and distribute for free or low cost throughout our very large ecosystem of partners. So that's our fundraise revenue, 80%. And the other 20% is what we make in income from our wholesale and our sliding scale CSA. So this is about $180,000 this year. And that was from community members and wholesale partners who pay us directly. And I'll get into quite a bit more detail about that in a moment. So next slide. Okay, so here I wanted to do a bit of a deep dive into our sliding scale CSA, which was also largely based off of Soulfire's model. Thank you for the mutual learning there and knowledge sharing on these different models. So our sliding scale CSA from the jump 10 years ago has changed quite a bit in terms of the various options that we're able to offer now. And we started with a few sites on farm and in New York City. In 2020, I think we had 8 different distribution locations for our CSA. And now we're kind of really honoring our capacity. And we have 3 different sites, 2 in New York City and 1 on farm. We have about 150 members in our sliding scale CSA. Again, in 2020 and 2021, I think we had almost 500. And so we've really kind of shifted to make sure that our offerings are the right size for us so that we can really commit to this particular work and making our food as accessible as possible. And so I'm going to go into our 4 pricing tiers. So we offer 4 different options for pricing within the sliding scale CSA. We have lower, which is 20% less than the retail cost. We offer retail price, so that middle price. We offer an upper tier, which is adding 20% on top of the retail price. And then we also have the contributor level, which is 40% on top of the retail price. And we offer guidelines on our website and everywhere we kind of market our CSA. As to how people may land on the sliding scale, it's the honor system. We don't ask for any kind of proof of income or any additional information. We just offer guidelines so people can situate themselves on the sliding scale. And then we also offer flexible payment plans. So for example, a 20% deposit at the time of sign up, and then 5 payments over the course of the season. So that's kind of the pricing. But in addition to that, and some of these programs are newer, although we have been offering these solidarity shares from the jump too. These are either reduced at 50% or offered no cost to community. There is a very short and brief online application on our website that people can fill out, include some information about, how they found out about us, if they're interested in no cost or a half off share. And so that's available on our website. And then those solidarity shares are offered based on our funding, based on internal funding, through individual donors or grants that we're able to receive. And on a typical year, we're able to offer about 15, I would say, solidarity shares. And then another way people can access our sliding scale, which is fairly new for us and very exciting, we're able to offer EBT shares that are paid online. This is really new. I can't believe we're in 2024 and it's just starting to happen for farms in our region. But we sell our EBT shares and all of our CSA shares through a platform called GrownBuy. And GrownBuy is set up with the USDA and SNAP to offer EBT online. So just as anyone would come to pay for the CSA, they can sign up for a share and pay with their EBT card online, either weekly or schedule pickups over the course of the season. And we also charge only $15 per vegetable box if someone's paying with EBT. And yeah, this is a program made possible by what's called CSA as a SNAP. And when you access these slides, there is a link there with more information about that program. And we also offer in-person payment at our sites for individuals paying with EBT. So that's our sliding scale, CSA. I know that was super quick, but excited to answer questions. And next slide. Okay, so Leah was kind of landing us in this ethos, this approach. At Rocksteady, we are all about dismantling the charity model in terms of how we in terms of how we partner with community and make sure that our food is accessible and meaningful. And so the way we do that is really with collaborative planning from the jump. We have many organizations and partners that we've been in long-term relationships with. Maybe they've reached out to us. Maybe we've been in community for a very long time and we've kind of built this thing together. But with all of our relationships, they are long-term, mutual, and interdependent, where they're reciprocal. Maybe that group is also spending time with us on the land, and we're also included in some of their activities. So definitely mutual partnership. Also, on the right side, multi-year funding. For us, it's been critical to find funding sources that can support our work over many years, that we feel in all directions good about investing in the relationships, really building this foundation that can grow, this reliability and consistency. So it's not just this, oh, okay, we put all this work into this season and then that's it. Building customer base or people that can really rely on this food source. So we really seek out multi-year funding to support the work. And in terms of the winter process and kind of year-round process, it's deeply collaborative planning. We're having meetings throughout the year, conversations, regular feedback around what are people enjoying? What do people want us to grow? what are the culturally meaningful crops that we might be able to trial on the land, what's doing well, what's not doing great on the land that we can't offer. But that's been a critical component of our work, is we actually inform our crop plan based on what our partners want us to grow. And yeah, that's been a beautiful part of the work also. So really kind of just having this very collaborative, collective ecosystem with our partners, and them really informing our work, and also partnering with entities that are really values aligned, and are by and for the communities that they're working in. So that's our approach to our food access work in general, and I'll get into a little bit more granular detail in the next slide. Okay, so this is a lot of information here, but I wanted to offer a little bit of detail here in terms of each different partner, and how every partner is a little bit different. I've listed our food access partners here, and also in bold, you'll see the distribution method, which is different for each of them based on what that partner knows best, of what will reach the community and what community has been asking for. So also italicized the third line for each of these is the funding source, which again is different for each of these, based on grants that we're able to access and the partnership work, what that's able to generate. So for example, Neighbors Helping Neighbors, the first one here on the left, which is a local organization, we are growing for their home delivery program, and that program is funded by individual donors. And then the second one here, Northeast Community Center, which is in Millerton, which is the town where we farm. We grow about $28,000 worth of food for Northeast Community Center each year. And that food is distributed via their weekly food pantry and also delivered via home delivery. And that is funded by a combination of state grants and the Glenwood Food Sovereignty Fund. So if you're in our region, this is a generous pot of money that partners farms and food pantries, mutual aid projects together, and funds those for typically multi-year. That's been a huge support to our work, for that reliability and consistency over time. And and then the third one here, also local in Millerton, is the Fair Food Initiative. And this is the distribution pathway is a pop-up sliding scale market, and that's funded by a nonprofit organization. I probably don't have time to go through all the ones on the right, but you can see dear colleagues and collaborators and friends of ours who run Free People's Market, Black Trans Liberation Kitchen, and Hattie Carthen Community Farm. Those are regional in Mount Vernon and in New York City. And you can see, again, different distribution methods like no-cost market. Also, our food offered through community meals. And at Hattie Carthen, our food is actually offered at a low-cost farmers market. So Hattie Carthen pays a percentage to buy our food, and it's offered at a low cost. And again, various funding sources like the Glenwood Food Sovereignty Fund, national grants, and also USDA funding. And I just wanted to highlight that 60% of all of our vegetables grown this season were for these food access partnerships, which was about $125,000 worth of food. Next slide, please. Great. Okay. I realize I'm going a little fast, but we'll be glad for all the questions at the end. So I've mentioned our sliding scale CSA. I've mentioned our food access partnerships, which was about 60% of all the food we grew. And then I did want to mention that we do distribute some of our food through traditional wholesale. So this is selling our food at a wholesale wholesale price. Thank you, Bree. Great, here we are. So this is selling our food at a wholesale price that's kind of on par with other regional growers, other sibling farms. And we also, it's traditional wholesale, but we're really intentional about who we sell to. We sell to values aligned entities. Maybe some of you are familiar with Brooklyn Packers in New York City, in Brooklyn. Not only are they a wholesale distributor and they run their own CSA, but they are organizers, they are movement leaders in the space of working to support distribution through this, like through the corridor that we're in here in the Hudson Valley. And so we feel really great about offering wholesale to Brooklyn Packers. We occasionally sell to local farm stores and catering companies. Again, Pixie Scout in New York City is also a values aligned organization or for-profit business, but they support our work with one of our food access partners, Black Trans Liberation Kitchen. They actually make the deliveries happen. They make the community meals happen. And also the Watershed Center happens to be a land partner of ours. So we sell food to their kitchen. And so we are earning income from this traditional wholesale, and also it's values aligned. There is partnership work as part of that. And so I wanted to highlight here this season, our 2024 season, our traditional wholesale actually only accounted for less than 10% of our overall food grown, which is really, really different from when the farm started. I would say it was probably closer to 70%, and then 30% of our production was for CSA. We've really changed a lot over 10 years and really been able to, with the fiscal sponsorship where we can raise a bunch of money for our operating costs and for the food access work, we can really dedicate that to our food access partners and rely much less heavily on our traditional wholesale. So the levers and the numbers look a lot different if you were to chart the trajectory of the project, but we feel really good about where we're at now and kind of always working to, I would say, like squeeze the traditional wholesale and really dedicate our growing space and our partnership work and our off-season work to raising the funds to do this work with our partners. So that's it in a nutshell, but excited for questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rica. That's incredible and really illuminating. I really appreciate the transparency and the longitudinal view. If everyone could choose some sort of reaction emoji or kind word to throw in the chat for Rica, we'll go ahead and do that now. Just throw some love their way. And with that, I'll hand it over to Ariel White to tell us about Schenectady Greenmarket. Thanks so much.
Hello, everybody, and good evening. My name is Ariel White, and I am the market manager for Schenectady Greenmarket. We are a farmers market, second largest in our area, located in downtown Schenectady, New York, like upstate a bit. So here we go to the next slide. So I'm going to be focusing a lot on our food box program, which is a fairly new program that began in 2022. But before that, I want to give you a little bit of insight about Schenectady as a city and our green market. So we market ourselves as a community of vendors and shoppers and friends. And we want to build a future where we, Schenectady Green Market, are an integral part of downtown cultural landscape. So right now, Schenectady is really building itself up. It was kind of dormant for a little while, but there's been a lot of funds put into the downtown area, and we want to be part of that as well. You can do next slide, please. So who are our customers? So Schenectady if you look at the census, it will tell you it's about 50% minority, but I really do want to focus on the school district, which I believe represents the community better than our census data does. So Schenectady School District contains about 10,000 students, and the minority enrollment is 80%, with about 42% of those students being disadvantaged. So Schenectady City School District does provide free lunch and breakfast for all students because of that. But our customers for our green market, the farmers market, are shoppers that live within 12 miles of downtown Schenectady. We do accept SNAP and double up food bucks at the market to diversify our payment methods. And people are looking for safe and healthy green food down there. So we can go to the next slide. So we are committed to creating and maintaining a diverse marketplace accessible for all community members, with vendors that reflect the diverse cultures and experiences of surrounding communities. And that is because our population is very diverse, and as a person, a POC, or if a person belonging to a minority subgroup, sometimes when you go to an environment where people do not reflect what you look like or your beliefs or your cultural background, it may be a hard place to access for you mentally. So we're trying to market and change our market to reflect more of what the city looks like. So we collaborate with our community partners to educate ourselves and community about farmers and healthy food. So we work very closely with our school district, our local school district, the other nonprofits and food pantries in the area. So we really go in there and work closely with our partners so that we know what the community members are looking for, and we try to reflect that inside our markets. Next slide, please. So we're going to focus today on our program, the Food Box program. So it is an affordable program that allows participants to purchase 5 to 7 items for $10. So currently we serve about 40 families weekly, and about a third of those orders are delivered, and our deliveries are free of charge, and we do it within about 10 miles of downtown Schenectady. So it does hit some of our more rural areas and around Schenectady City, rural communities, or the homebound people, senior citizens, and even families that have children, which sometimes make it difficult to move out and about as freely as you would like to. And the program accepts all forms of payment, including SNAP benefits, and it's currently supported through several grants. So the $10 price point is about 40% of what the products actually cost. The Schenectady Greenmarket, we purchase our produce from our local farmers at the Green Market. So we have about 13 farmers that we purchase from weekly. And that can go up and down depending on what part of the season, who is in attendance at the market, as well as we do have one local freight farm that supplies us some greens weekly. And in the winter, the colder months when produce is not as abundant, we do work with a baker, and that helps subsidize the program by adding bread to the program, so that we also, the package is still quite substantial for the $10. We can do the next slide. So the program was developed because there was a needs survey done in Schenectady City to see and about food access. And the main goals of these programs were build community-wide support for healthier food, increase accessibility and affordability of healthier food, engage all members of our diverse community in collaborative to support healthier eating, and to ensure community ownership of sustainable, healthier food system. So with the Food Box program, this hits all 4 of those goals. We really rely on the input of our customers. So we do survey them about twice a year after each season to see how the season went, what they liked, what they didn't like. As for deliveries, we identify our customer base and what they like or what their needs may be, and try to give about 5. If we have 6 items, we'll do 5 items that are really well known, and then possibly something that might be a little different and provide a recipe for that. We have a lot of seniors. So one example is just like over the summer, we had a great influx of turmeric. So we did try to include turmeric and ginger in the boxes occasionally and just give out ways to use it and why it might be beneficial for the individuals to have it in their package. For our pickup customers, they can come directly to the market. And when ordering, we are mindful, we try to give choices. I know there's a lot of times when you receive a food package from a pantry or something similar, and you don't really get the option. So we're just trying to humanize the entire event by, if we order, when ordering, we say, okay, we have like three main things. Like, will be like apples, squash, or cucumbers, and then we'll have some choices as well. So we'll put like four things together, and you can choose from that. So you are receiving a food package. It is subsidized. The cost is less than usual, but you don't feel like you're a charity case. You get the experience to shop and choose and engage with whoever's working or volunteering to serve you. Next page, please. So our target demographic for this program are individuals who may lack access to fresh food due to financial constraints or mobility issues. So we do focus on those who may be and not be able to get to the market or may not be able to afford some of the produce at the market because the produce may be a little bit more expensive than the grocery store. So we're trying to make that accessible, and we're also trying to make it so that our farmers don't lose out on sales as well. So when we do purchase from farmers, we purchase at their full cost and then subsidize the cost for the families. So we prioritize individuals whose income levels fall between 200% of the 2023 poverty threshold. And those are our priority customers. We do understand, though, that there are customers who may, and we do 200% because we understand there are customers that may not be eligible for SNAP benefits or other benefits that still do have difficulties accessing fresh and local foods. So 200% is our priority. And if there are other situations in your household, we do look at the entire picture to when we're accepting people into the program. And we did include a link if you want to learn more about the program as well. So another thing is our registration is on a rolling basis. So when we first began the program, we did do that you will sign up for the entire month and you were responsible for picking up each week or getting delivery each week. We saw that there were some barriers in that because there are some families that are one or two people families that may not use all the food or be able to use all the food that was in the package. So we changed it. So with a rolling basis, you can, once you apply, you're in the program until you tell us that you no longer want to be part of the program, as long as we do have space for you. And then we also do now send out a weekly order form. So you can let us know, indicate if you would like to get a package that week. And if you don't, you can just let us know you're going to be skipping. Therefore, there's no pressure for you to come in if your funds are low or you just don't have the use for the project at that moment. Also, so for those who do not meet all the criteria, so when we do say criteria, we are looking at income, family size, your zip code. So we're trying to target zip codes that may have a population of lower income folks. And we also look at if you have children or seniors in the family as well. And we do, it's like a little point system, but most everybody usually gets points because we do try to look at the full picture of who is applying for the program. If by chance you do not meet any of those criteria, then you are put on a wait list, and if a spot doesn't open up, you will be contacted for the program. So how do we get to know, how do we reach out to our community? Because sometimes when we say Schenectady Greenmarket in our area, in our circles, people do not know that we're a farmer's market and what do we do. So we have been doing a lot of outreach with the school district We have done several field trips to Schenectady Greenmarket with school district families where they can come to the market and they are provided tokens that they can use as currency to purchase meals for their family. So they and then we give them a tour and introduce them to the vendors that are there and help them navigate the different systems, how to use their SNAP benefits, the different tokens that are available, the different coupons that are available. And we will guide them through that. We also do these field trips with the local city mission as well. And they are able to do the same thing, come to the market, receive tokens, and then we do guide them through the market. And we do that because we notice that a barrier sometimes is a barrier to going somewhere unknown. You don't know about it, you don't know you're going to be accepted. So by bringing people there in a group and showing them the welcoming faces and also being welcoming and answering any questions they may have, that helps lower those barriers. And also they may bring a friend next time they come. And I think that is all I have for now. Next slide. I think that was my last slide. And here's my contact if anything. So thank you.
Ariel, thank you so much. I love the food box program for many reasons. And one of them is that it solves a problem for farmers when they sign up for farmers markets, and that problem is, what if you go all the way there and you don't sell your stuff? So by having an outlet whereby the market itself is buying the produce off of the farmers and repurposing it for the food box, it serves the community, but also reduces risks for the farmer. And I just love the model so much. And it's one that, I hope the farmers on this call who are close to Schenectady consider applying to be vendors at the green market, and folks who are near other markets, encourage them to replicate this model of having a food box program. Super, super awesome. So I already see it happening, but if you all would throw some emoji love for Ariel on the Schenectady Green Market or write in the chat, I would really appreciate that so much. And I'm going to go ahead and share a little bit about Soulfire. All right, friends. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Soulfire Farm's model for solidarity sharing. But first, I want to zoom out and give you some information about who we are. Our purpose is that we are an Afro-Indigenous centered community farm and training center dedicated to uprooting racism and seeding sovereignty in the food system. And there are a few areas of work that we focus on to accomplish this really ambitious aim. One is that we tend 80 acres of Mohican land in Grafton, New York, outside of Albany. And we use Afro-Indigenous regenerative practices to do that. We intensively cultivate about 6 or 7 acres, and the rest is wildlands. You can see in this picture here the improvement in the soil over the course of the 18 years that we've been in relationship with the soil. My left hand is the before, my right hand is the after. We also solidarity share about 80% of what we harvest. So we do weekly doorstep delivery at no cost to survivors of food apartheid, including fruits, vegetables, value add, eggs, honey, shiitake, flowers. And we are a training center. So we work with about 2,000 people in person every year and 50,000 people online, training the rising generation of Black and Brown farmers through one-day programs, 3D workshops, week-long immersions, 18-month fellowships. And our training is not just in farming, but wrap around rural living and life on land skills like carpentry and natural building. We also host community events for people of all ages. And as our campus construction, which has been underway for 18 years, comes finally almost to a close, we've been able to increase our campus sharing. So very low cost rentals to mission aligned groups to be able to use the beautiful facilities and land. We work in the surrounding urban area of Albany, Troy, and Schenectady, building gardens, training folks in gardening, distributing our homegrown seedlings. And then throughout the year, but especially this time of year, we're focused on organizing and public education regionally, nationally, and sometimes even internationally by doing public speaking, publishing books and articles, getting involved in policy campaigns, and trying to make institutions and policy just a little bit more fair for the earth and people of the earth. And over the years, as our work has grown, of course, the number of people touched by the work has grown. And so we have a robust alumni network and Braiding Seeds Fellowship network and wonderful teammates whose job it is to look out for our alumni and fellows in terms of what kinds of support they need, technical assistance, land matching services, mentorship, funding, and try to connect them with opportunities. We're part of the founding team for the Northeast Farmers of Color Land Trust, and also have touched into the work of Black Farmer Fund, Black Farmers United New York State, the Northeast Ecosystem, Heal Food Alliance, National Black Food and Justice Alliance, and many other regional and national partners. And we're actually two entities, and so I'm going to be focusing mostly on our nonprofit work, Soul Fire Farm Institute, Inc., but the land is actually held in common through a co-op, the Soul Fire Farm Land Stewardship Collective, which is a housing cooperative and eco-village that overlaps with the work of the nonprofit, but is a distinct legal entity. So important to mention that as well, as it does play into our ethos. This is our wonderful staff this year, wonderful team. About a third of our teammates touch the land on a regular basis. So our farm team, there are, if you count by hours, there are about 3 full-time equivalents, but that labor is divided between, 5 to 8 people, depending on the time of year, with the remainder of our wonderful team focused on education, policy, operations, communications, alumni support, public speaking, and more. And this is our lovely board here, Jalal and Keisha and Geraldine and others, some people you probably recognized. So I wanted to give you a little bit of that context for our work. At this point in Soul Fire Farm's journey, we are primarily an educational farm. We did start out as a family farm back in the day. And so, 100% of our revenue was sales. And, over time we have shifted. So it was really beautiful. Rick, I was inspired by what you shared there. But just to talk about where we are now. So this is 2024, and the farm team is responsible for the goal of regeneration. So we are working to regenerate the land and to serve food to people who are targeted by food apartheid and state violence. And so here's some pictures of our awesome team investing in the soil with lots of organic matter. And I'm showing you here a comparison between some of our goals for the year and what we're actually able to accomplish. So of course, the soil is the foundation of everything. So we've been really thrilled to maintain our soil organic matter over 10%, our land and perennials over 80%, harvesting about, this needs to be updated, about 16,000 pounds that went to our solidarity shares, and getting a real handle on the ever-changing pest and disease situation as the climate changes. So some images of the beautiful harvest here. We had insane amounts of winter squash this year. Beautiful garlic this year. Garlic, garlic, garlic. And we feel as though we've really locked into our systems here. Where we farm is challenging. We're not in valley land. We're on steep mountain slopes that are heavy clay, highly erodible, and very low ranking on the USDA soil quality. And so we have to be gentle with our land. We can't coax quite too much out of her and invest quite a lot in order to even get the yields that we do. Our wonderfully cute goats. So as far as our solidarity shares, we distributed over $50,000 worth of produce in this past year through our solidarity share program. The program reached 767 people weekly through 24 household shares and then 4 institutional partners who in turn distribute that food to other households. And nearly all of the people who were part of our solidarity share reported that they had an improvement in their health and household economy since joining. We also sponsor 8 weekly shares through the Schenectady Food Box program of Schenectady Greenmarket, which is a wonderful collaboration and not listed on this slide, but we provide low sugar jam to the Schenectady City School District through a partnership as well. That's been really meaningful for us. This is the geographic distribution of the institutional and household members of our Solidarity Share. You can see mostly on the Troy-Albany corridor. We aren't New York City oriented, we're more capital region oriented, and there are many food apartheid neighborhoods that need our support. And our Solidarity Share members are predominantly Black, Latine, and Native, with a smaller percentage that are Asian American, Pacific Islander, and Swana. Next year, we're going to move into translating all of our materials into Spanish so that we can welcome more Spanish-speaking households with ease into our program, and also increase the number of pick your own days and gleaning days, which have been really popular opportunities for folks to come out to the farm and enjoy the abundance hands-on and firsthand. And we'll provide some transportation stipends and support to get people out to the farm. So here's some pictures from our gleaning days, people enjoying potatoes and strawberries and melons and carrots. So in addition to the Solidarity Share program, we also provide food for our own kitchen. So as I mentioned, we have, between 1,500 and 2,000 visitors to the farm, students at the farm every year, and they all eat, right? And so we've been really excited that we've gradually been able to increase the amount of food on a person's plate that comes right from the farm. So 85% of what was on your plate when you come to the farm is now from here. Hyper local is like the 500-foot diet. We served 1,425 meals this year. And then I mentioned the fruit preserves. And then we have a smaller micro enterprise of selling value add products online. So our teas and salves and dried herbs and salts, those are sold online, which is a break-even business that serves an educational purpose in terms of the training programs for our farmers who come, but also contributes to, some of the earned income of the farm. I'm going to breeze through some of these slides, but I wanted to put them in here just so that when I share this afterwards, you can see more detail than I have time to share right now. So you can see some of the value add work that's happening here. And just to be transparent around staffing, so we have in the shoulder season about 2.5 full-time equivalents that farm the land. It's about 2 acres intensively cultivated, and then several acres that are extensively cultivated, and 3.5 in peak season. So an average of 3 FTEs per year, but again, divided between 5 and 8 people. And here's some photos of our wonderful farm team. Our eldest child, Nashima, who is always finding 4 or 5 leaf clovers magically. I've never found one myself, but Nashima seems to always find them. And Taina and Winter and Suyu and Ria and Danny and Maya. It's a wonderful team. Hannah, Brooke. So what are our strategies to be able to give away food for free? Well, first, as I mentioned briefly earlier, we used to charge for our food. And so when we were a family farm before we opened the nonprofit effectively in 2016 is when we got our nonprofit status. So from 2010 to 2016, that was 7 years. We were a for-profit farm, and we were able to break even using a sliding scale model. And so we would charge EBT SNAP users below market and low-income folks below market value, and then high-income folks above market value, and encourage people to add on. And that was the model for many years. We also would supplement that with GoFundMe campaigns every wintertime that we branded as Feed Your Neighbor to encourage people to sponsor a share for someone near them. And then after we opened the nonprofit in 2016, we started to be able to receive grants and donations from private individuals that were tax deductible. And so in the pandemic in 2020, we realized that the need was so high for no cost food that we decided to switch entirely to Solidarity Shares and no longer to sell produce, recognizing fully the privilege of that as having a 501c3 nonprofit. We've also accepted EBT, SNAP, and WIC. And Rica, I did not know that it's now online. That's amazing because it was so onerous to manually enter these EBT vouchers every week. So I'm really, really glad that we've now caught up to the times, and it's easier for farmers to take EBT. This is an example of 2019 GoFundMe to sponsor our Solidarity Share program. We did eventually reach the goal. This was just early on in the campaign. And where we are now is that, Soul Fire Farm's entire expenditure budget is about $2.5 million a year. We have 18 employees. As I mentioned, most of our work is educational. The farm is a small portion of our work, but farm sales make up 8.6% of our total budget. And the impact is real. It's been really incredible every single year to hear testimonies from folks who are members talking about how having access to this fresh food to their doorstep every week, knowing their farmer, is wonderful for their physical health, like reducing blood sugar and helping them achieve health goals, but also for mental health and sense of well-being. And one of the ways that we support that, because of course money isn't the only barrier for people to be able to access fresh food. There's also cultural relevancy, accessibility, right? I talked a little bit about the translation and language justice, but a big part of what we do, and I've heard this, from our other presenters today, is to make sure that we're growing foods that people want to eat and that are culturally relevant. So things like our members have asked us to grow okra and collard greens and hibiscus, fish peppers, popcorn, callaloo, watermelons, different kinds of mints, African basil. And so we're constantly refining our crop plan to respond to our community's needs while also, of course, listening to the earth and what is going to grow well on the land. And in our partnership with the Mohican Nation, one of the really exciting things that we did was to plant a milpa, or Three Sisters garden, in the traditional Mohican layout. And so in the south, growing the red maize and the red beans; in the north, the white maize and the white beans; in the east, the yellow maize and the yellow beans; and in the west, the black and blue maize and beans; and then the sacred herbs in the center with the sunflowers and the tobacco. And so we've been working closely with farmers at the Mohican Nation to build this garden out as well. And it's been really special to be able to not just share food, but also to rematriate seed and herbs to our partners at the Mohican Nation and to keep that seed alive. And we see that as part of the food sovereignty work as well. And in the spirit of each one, teach one, of course, training farmers, we've made a conscious decision to balance efficiency and production goals with teaching and learning goals. And those things, while they're not in opposition, there can be dynamic tension, because when you have novices on your farm, you got to take time to show them how to do things and be patient with the learning curve. Of course, it's not feasible to have all novices on the farm, or it'd be hard to also meet the other production goals, but we've always welcomed 1 or 2 novices every year in order to really center that each one teach one goal and to make sure that we're passing on knowledge and skills to the next generation. We are food justice certified with the Agricultural Justice Project. This is a fair trade certification where they do a careful audit of how we treat our workers, how we treat one another in terms of pay, housing, time off, conflict and dispute resolution, input into and transparency and budget and decision making. And so that's been really important for us as part of our overall ethos around food justice, is to recognize that it's not just getting food out to the community, but it's also how we're embodying those values within our own organization. Just some more testimonies about the amazing qualities of the food. Here's a distribution day of filling up the boxes. After Prince died, we had a purple year where we did an excessive amount of purple crops in honor of Prince. And so that's where some of those pictures are coming from. But it's been so fun on the few days when I'm filling in on delivery and get to see the joy that folks feel when they receive the boxes. It's like Christmas morning, and the eagerness with which people are receiving that food. Yeah, so in summary, some of the strategies around accessibility, and these are outlined in more detail. We wrote a manual back in 2018 called Sowing the Seeds of Food Justice that goes into this in detail, but the sliding scale payments, accepting SNAP EBT and WIC, providing doorstep delivery so folks don't have to go anywhere is huge. And we actually find it saves time because you don't have any non-picked up boxes you have to deal with. You're not waiting at a farmer's market. We can deliver all of our boxes in about 4 or 5 hours a week. Growing culturally relevant crops, having close relationships with neighbors and community, and partnerships with other institutions like, so our partners this year include the Refugee Welcome Center of West Hill, the Free Food Fridge of Albany, the Fish Market, which is actually an art space. They distribute some food. We drop off food at focus churches, the African American Cultural Center. I know I'm forgetting somebody important, but and then of course the Schenectady City School District. Some of the programs that we have on various years been a subcontractor on, we've never been a lead writer of a federal grant, but Finney, CFP, and the FMLFPP. So I'll close here with this wonderful quote from Vandana Shiva. She said, "In nature's economy, the currency is not money, it is life." All right. So we shared with you a little bit of our stories. Thank you all for receiving and listening. And now I'm going to pass the mic to you. So we're going to have some time for question, answers, comments, insights. And you can either write your question or comment in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we'll call on you and you can speak out loud. Out loud is preferred. And for folks who are willing to come put their videos on, that would also be welcome, just so we can see who's in the room and enjoy your beautiful faces. So if you want to come on video, please do. And feel free to, yeah, raise your hands or just come on mute.
There was
Hi.
a question in the chat from Chal. It says, "Incredible, thank you for sharing. I'm curious, where does the other percentage budget come from?"
Who is that question directed to, Chal?
I think it was directed, I think it came through during your presentation, Leah.
Oh, sure. So the 91% is grants and fundraising, and then the 9% is earned revenue. And I can drop in the chat the details in our annual report for anyone who wants to see the full financials. So that's the answer to that question.
I just want to say hello. This is Emilio Panashi from Newark, New Jersey. I'm with Urban Agriculture Cooperative, and I just want to thank everybody for presenting and also for really being willing to share like your business model transparently. That's very helpful to us. I always try to do that as well when people ask us about Urban Ag Co-op and what we do, and talking about the mixes of the different farms we buy from in different seasons and how we have to use subsidy, just like many of you, to help ensure fair prices for farmers and also keep our prices low for our consumers in our community. And so much of that rings true. So I don't really have a question. I just wanted to say thank you guys, because a lot of folks and a lot of nonprofits are like not always willing to share how they really do things and want others to learn from it. So I appreciate that very much. Look forward to learning more.
Hi, my name is Unique, and I have a question. First, thank you all for your time and just for the work that you do. It's very inspiring. My question is around kind of the behavioral aspect or a behavioral aspect of your work. And when I say that, I'm referencing, so many people in disadvantaged communities and they grow up in these food apartheids. So they may not understand how to eat like fresh local food or may not want fresh local food. How do you all think about changing behaviors and preferences, if at all?
Ariel, would you speak to that?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So we do see that quite often. And so we started working, as I said, with the school district, and we began a program. It's called Fire Chefs. It's food insecurity resilience education. And we focus a lot with middle schoolers on cooking and preparing fresh and local foods, how to grow your foods, and where to access cultural foods in the community, where the farms, the local urban farms are, how to work on those farms and access that with your families as well. And then in the end, we do provide food boxes for them to prepare a meal from, and that meal ends up in the school lunches. So we try to, as a 6-month program, we work with the school district with, and we're really trying to encourage and introduce these foods into the families, as well as letting them know like what is in season, why may you not be able to access this at this time, and things like that. So providing the information that we know sometimes may be lacking.
That's so great. I just want to add to that as well. Some of the strategies that we've used, one is when youth and families are able to come out to the farm and participate in harvesting and cooking, that exposure is usually joyful and compelling. We haven't had a young person not want to eat the vegetarian burrito or the thing that they made, which is really wonderful. I think in addition to that, we've done some cooking demos with community partners, especially in the early years. And then the Soul Fire in the City program of building gardens with people and supporting them and learning how to grow their own food. There is really something about the hands-on experience of the growing and the harvesting that I think gets folks hooked on those fresh foods in a way that is easier than just being on the consumer side of it. So we're trying to get as many gardens built as we have capacity for. Rica, is that something that you all work on at all?
We do a bit. What came to mind though is I wanted to share a resource in case folks didn't know about an organization called Deep Roots. Maya Marie out of I believe Maya's based in Brooklyn. Deep Roots, ROUTES, is an Afro-Indigenous culinary curriculum, and offers tons of resources. And we actually work with Maya to create an offering on our website, basically like a kitchen. We call it the Rocksteady Farm Kitchen, where people can access recipes and profiling each of the crops that we grow to engage in like the seed story and storage and various recipes. And so that lives on our website. And so, internally, we didn't have the capacity to do that, but we worked with Maya, who has this incredible, rich knowledge and building out this culinary curriculum. So just wanted to offer that as a resource, and I'll put it in the chat as well.
Thank you all.
Subconscious Express, go ahead.
I literally thought I changed my name. I'm Tanika, everyone. Good to- I'm so grateful to be able to tune into this and get exposure to a lot of this work. Recently, I've learned about cooperative models of organizations and institutions, and just seeing like functioning alternative models to what I'm used to. And I've just learned now more about Brooklyn Packers and things out here in New York City that are accessible to me. So I just wanted to say thank you. And I'm very grateful that I joined and am here with you all today.
I do love your nickname though. That's really amazing. It does. You make me think of a question though that I have for Ariel and Rica. So I'm curious, of all of the various partners that you work with, including your own organization, if there are farmers on this call who are interested in getting their produce into one of these programs, like what is the avenue? Like, can they sell this Schenectady Green Market? Can this Glenwood pot of money, can they access it? Like, if you could give a little bit about how to get involved with some of these distribution modalities, that would be great.
So for Schenectady Green Market, we really just focus on purchasing from our own farmers at the market. But we have been partnering with the Schenectady School District, and they do a farm to school truck that they've had a USDA grant for, where they have to purchase from New York local farmers. And they've been purchasing from farmers at the Green Market and also other farmers in the area. So that might be a program that farmers that are on this call can tie into. And they don't, it doesn't have to be a large amount. I know we have one farmer who will sell like 5 pounds of peppers a week, um, and things like that. And then we have others that sell cases and cases of items. So no matter the scale, they'll be willing to support you.
And in terms of our existing partnerships or outlets, I think BK Packers, depending on where you're located, is a great one. They are an aggregate, sort of kind of building into a food hub in Brooklyn, and they are able to buy from small and medium growers. Similarly, you know, they can buy from a grower who's just got you know, say a couple boxes of wholesale to, you know, 500, 600, 700 pounds of squash. And they're doing a lot of organizing work around transportation and distribution in our corridor to get things as far north as probably Albany, all the way through Hudson Valley, Westchester, kind of aggregating small growers to New York City. So I think that's a great entry point. And I'll put the person's contact information in the chat, who would be the one to reach out to. And then, yeah, Glenwood, the Food Sovereignty Fund also the intention is to really support small growers. And again, that's a partnership that matches a farm directly with a food pantry or mutual aid project that might already be in your area. And it's really the funding source and kind of the partnership support pathway. So I think those two would be a great place to start. And I'll put some contact information in the chat. Yeah.
Madeline, go ahead.
Hi, sorry. I have a couple money questions. Um, the first one is for Rica. I'm curious if you could speak a little bit more about the fiscal sponsor model, and like operating as an LLC rather than a nonprofit or 501(c)(3). I'm wondering if that like disqualifies Rocksteady from tax exempt donations and if that like impacts fundraising or just the that model. And then this is kind of another question, but maybe related. I work for a nonprofit farm and we give away all the food that we grow and so rely heavily on donations. And a really big donor of our farm this year is the former board president of Raytheon, which sucks. And whenever I've tried to like talk to the executive director about that just for some organizational leadership or guidance on how to navigate that, like really something that feels really bad, she's kind of just like, there's no way to like have any sort of litmus test on donors, da, 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 da. So I'm wondering if you have a different opinion, anyone here, like if you have any sort of system on your farms for sort of like vetting where large sums of money come from and whether those sources are value aligned.
Thanks for your question. Leah, I know maybe you'd want to speak to the fundraising piece and accepting donations. I know so far Farm has done a ton of work on guidance around kind of philanthropy practices, and we've definitely leaned into those resources big time. In terms of being a fiscal or being an LLC, so we're a co-op. we're a registered LLC, and we have a fiscal sponsor that we can accept donations for 80% of our operating costs. I know I already said this, but because we're a fiscal sponsor, the organization who we're sponsored by can accept tax exempt donations on our behalf. And so that's where we're able to have a lot of flexibility, autonomy, leverage in terms of, we can access private grants, public grants, state and federal funding to some degree, and also private, build relationships with private donors. And we're also a co-op, and so we don't have a board. So we're kind of this really mixed model, and we found that it provides a lot of flexibility and autonomy and agency. And I would say what replaces our board are kind of accountability partners, and consultants. But yes, we are able to accept tax exempt donations, and kind of all different types of funding streams, because of that fiscal sponsorship. And I'll also put in the chat who our fiscal sponsor is, so that you can check them out too. They support a number of sibling projects in our area, and they're pretty radical. The fees are really low. That's another component of this fiscal sponsorship. So yeah, we feel really grateful for that partnership. And then, yeah, I don't know, Leah, if you wanted to speak to the kind of the philanthropy end of the question.
Absolutely. And thank you for being so generous with those resources. I'm like, I need to add them to our fiscal sponsor list because people are always reaching out. All right. I'm going to also drop in the chat. This is Soulfire Farms Funder Equity Guide. I will say we don't have hard and fast rules, but we have a number of exploration questions that help us vet whether we're going to work with a particular funder. And so there's some reflection questions we ask them to engage in. For example, did you consider your organization anti-racist? And how do you show that commitment? Is the wealth that you are going to share with us garnered through the exploitation of human beings or planet Earth? Do you have a reparations analysis? Do you prioritize funding organizations that are often overlooked, such as BIPOC-led? Are you willing to be changed by us versus just advising us, right? And so there's these questions that we present in these funder conversations. And if those go well and point in the direction of values alignment, then we're willing to work with a funder. And if it doesn't, then we've been able to decline to work with a funder. And funder education has been a big part of what we did, especially in the early years when we were, I will say, shocked by the grossness of the nonprofit industrial complex world, because we just hadn't been in it. And we're like, this is wild. Like, why is this happening? And so did a lot of work to build some guides and get out there and talk to the funding community about ways that we think things could go better. Not just us, but we had interviewed hundreds of BIPOC-led grassroots organizations to hear how the funding world was or was not supporting them, and then made these guides. So I'm sharing that there, and hopefully that answers your question. I think we have time for one or two more. I think Marianne had their hand up. I don't know if you still have a question.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for offering all of these resources and insights into your own experiences. It's been really helpful and I think like hopeful in these times. I was wondering if you could share more about the trajectory of, I guess, your farm's finances and how you sustainably sort of shifted away from sales and towards fundraising, and how, like, I guess you made time to connect with community partners while also tending to, all the different things that a farm sort of requires. If you have any, sort of insights from, I guess, the experience of shifting the funding of a farm.
I can start, and then Rica, if you want to fill in. Yeah, it's a lot. I would say that we really underestimated, especially because we created our own 501c3, the paperwork burden of doing that on top of running a farm, on top of working jobs off of the farm because at that point we didn't have enough revenues to sustain everybody. It was a hard year, to be really honest. I mean, the year of doing all that paperwork and establishing the organizational infrastructure was from the end of 2014 to early 2016. And it was a big learning curve for us. Very quickly, of course, we realized we need a team because it's not possible to tend the land and do all of this administration at the same time and be a sane human being, right? And so we had to bring on, we were blessed to be able to bring on our first employees in 2016. And originally, all of us were both farmers and administrators. And so we spent about 80% of our time in the field. And then, we had one of our interns wrote grant reports and another one of our interns wrote thank you notes. So we were all sort of sharing it. And as the organization grew and professionalized, and the work started to differentiate, our teammates now tend to have more of a singular focus or maybe 2 or 3 foci, but not everything, so there's a dedicated farm team, even as the farm team does hold other bodies of work. The co-executive director, Cheryl Wilby, does an outstanding job raising almost all the money for the organization. We have a person who focuses on HR, but I don't think there's a way to jump, from where we were in 2014 to where we are now, just in one step. It was sort of, we learned as we went.
I think similarly, it's just been a real journey and process. And definitely kind of more of the deep granular parts of our finances are not my zone of expertise. My coworker and co-worker owner, Maggie Cheney, really holds a lot of that knowledge. I can put their email in the chat also. But yeah, definitely a gradual process. I mentioned, I think when the farm started out, Rocksteady was doing farmers markets and wholesale, just the wholesale hustle in New York City, and to restaurants, kind of just lots of different outlets. And that's really shifted over time as the fundraising capacity grew. And 4 years ago now, we were able to allocate money in our budget to hire a grant writer who works about 20 hours a week. And that was a massive shift in our capacity to access these state, local, private grants. The dedicated person to build those relationships really changed the game for us, because as Leah said, we were, our person in charge of finances was also farming full time, and really pulled in a lot of different directions. So I would say we, 5 years down the road of Rocksteady, we were actually able to hire a grant writer, very skilled grant writer, pay them generously so that they could dedicate their time to that work. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, we'll take one last question from Lauren. Go ahead. You're on mute, Lauren.
Thank you. I never do Zoom calls, so this is new for me. Just was saying thanks for hosting this. It's really nice to be here in this space with you all. The Hudson, New York School District, near where my farm is based, is just starting a farm to school sort of committee and starting to get interested in that connection. And I guess I just was curious if there's any advice about like what worked well starting out in connecting local food with school districts. It feels like something that it's really important to get input from students and also folks that are preparing the food about like what desires are, what wants to be cooked and what wants to be eaten. And so I just feel like it's hard to know exactly where to start. So just curious if anyone has advice around that, what worked well.
For me, what works well is just being present, showing up and letting them know who you are, that you have shared similar missions and you really want to work together, and ask them how you can support their goals, and then in turn they help support yours as well, and just making sure they just being there, I guess. So, and then our local coordinator, she is awesome. Her name is Rebecca Henriksen. And if you want, you can contact me and I can contact you guys together. And she does a lot of great work. I know she's consulting now with a Syracuse farm to school as well. And she's really passionate about her work and she does a great job here. So I'm willing to make that connection if you would like.
Thank you. That's awesome.
That's very generous of you. I love all the resources getting thrown in the chat. So just a few logistics before we close with a short quote from a dear one. A recording and accompanying resources will be sent out. So you will be able to view this later. You can share it. You can enjoy it. Please, please, please. The whole point of this is in the spirit of each one, teach one, so that we can go forth and have more tools to feed our community without going broke. That is what we want for our farmers. And just want to give a deep, deep thanks to my teammate, Brianna, for the wonderful, seamless tech support. Deep thanks to Ariel White and all of that work you're doing in Schenectady. That is, Schenectady does not get the love that Schenectady deserves, and that you are right there doing the work day in and day out to feed the people. I so appreciate it. And Rica, thank you so much for the wonderful insights and just modeling transparency and specificity in your presentation. I learned a lot from you today and to everyone who came. So I'll leave you with these wonderful words by poet Gwendolyn Brooks. She wrote, "We are each other's harvest. We are each other's business. We are each other's magnitude and bond." Have a wonderful, wonderful evening, everyone. Take good care.